The Galactic Defense Academy, stationed above the ringed gas giant Voss 9, was not built for comfort. It was built for pressure. It was built to break things, specifically the spirit of every cadet who dared walk through its reinforced blast doors thinking they had what it took to graduate. Instructor Groval Fen had been teaching there for 31 cycles. 31 cycles of watching cadets cry, quit, collapse, and occasionally combust, in one memorable case literally. He was a Sulvari, which meant he stood at nearly 3 meters tall, had 4 arms, 6 eyes arranged in a half-crown across his broad skull, and absolutely zero patience for anything resembling human emotion. He also had a laugh. And that laugh, oh, that laugh was the kind of sound that made nearby windows consider resigning. The morning of the practical assessment, Instructor Groval Fen walked into Simulation Bay 7 with the energy of someone who had already decided how the day would go. His 4 hands were clasped behind his back. His 6 eyes scanned the room in that slow, deliberate way that said, "I already know your weaknesses, I just enjoy watching you remember them too." 40 cadets stood at attention. 39 of them were species Groval had trained before. Sulvari, Keth, Vorali, 2 Dengari twins who always finished each other's sentences and never finished their assignments. And then, standing in the second row, third from the left, was Cadet Mira Voss. Human. Female. 22 years old by their planet's counting. Brown hair pulled back so tight it looked like it was trying to escape from her skull. Eyes the color of wet bark, which Groval privately found unsettling because no eye should look that still. He had watched her for the past 6 weeks. He had watched her fail the first tactical drill by choosing the least efficient route, then explain, calmly and without any apparent shame, why it was actually the most efficient route, and then be correct. He had watched her eat ration packs without flinching, which mattered because ration packs were specifically designed to taste like regret. He had watched her, during a night survival exercise, sleep for exactly 4 hours, wake up, reconfigure the entire group's shelter, and go back to sleep as though she had simply taken a water break. He found her irritating in the specific way that competent people are irritating, which is to say, constantly. Today, Groval announced, his voice carrying the full weight of someone who had never once lowered it in a professional setting, "You will run the collapsed bridge scenario. You will move a simulated wounded unit across a structurally compromised crossing under suppressed fire, with limited resources, and a countdown. The time limit is 14 minutes. He paused. He let the silence do what silence was good at. Last cycle, he continued, every cadet failed this scenario. The cycle before that, every cadet failed this scenario. And the cycle before that. He let that land. I am not telling you this to discourage you. I am telling you this because honesty is a kindness, and I am a very kind instructor. Somewhere behind Mira, one of the Dengari twins whispered something to the other. Groval's upper left eye twitched toward them. The whispering stopped. You have 3 minutes to review your team assignments. Begin. The bay erupted into the controlled noise of cadets organizing themselves, cross-referencing their team lists, and doing that thing where they looked confident on the outside while absolutely screaming on the inside. Groval walked the perimeter, hands still behind his back, expression doing what Sulvari expressions did best, which was communicate deep, fundamental disappointment before anything had even happened yet. He passed by Mira. She was not looking at her team sheet. She was looking at the simulation environment itself, at the bridge model suspended over the smoke-filled gap, at the angle of the suppression emitters, at the weight indicators on the side panel that listed the simulated wounded unit's mass. Groval slowed. Just slightly. Just enough. She pulled out a small stylus, wrote 3 numbers on her palm, and put it away. He moved on. The scenario began at 0900 sharp. The first 3 teams went in and did what every team before them had done. They moved too fast, misjudged the structural load, triggered the collapse protocol, and heard the simulation alarm blare in that flat, joyless tone that meant, "You have failed, please collect your dignity from the floor on your way out." Team 7 was Mira's team. They entered the bay. The countdown began. 14 minutes, glowing red on the overhead display. And then Groval crossed his lower arms, tilted his head, and watched. Because something was already different. And he could not, for the life of him, figure out what it was yet. Team 7 moved nothing like the teams before them. The 3 teams that had failed before Mira's group had all made the same fundamental error. They had treated the scenario like a race. 14 minutes sounds generous until the bridge starts groaning under you, the suppression fire starts tightening its pattern, and your wounded unit suddenly feels like it weighs twice what the panel said it did. Mira's team moved like they had already done this. Not fast. Not slow. Deliberate. Every step placed with the kind of intention that suggested the floor was a conversation and they were choosing their words carefully. Groval stood at the observation rail above the bay. His 4 arms were no longer clasped behind his back. 2 of them had moved, without his permission, to grip the railing. Cadet Doro Mac, a stocky Keth with arms like structural beams, was carrying the wounded unit frame across his shoulders. He was following Mira's hand signals. Not the standard academy hand signals that every cadet was taught in week 2. Different ones. Simpler ones. 3 gestures total, and somehow they were covering everything the 12-gesture standard set covered, plus 2 things the standard set had never bothered to address. Cadet Eula Pren, a Virali female who had spent the last 6 weeks being aggressively average, was managing the suppression timing on the left flank. She was counting under her breath. Groval's lower eyes narrowed. She was using Mira's count. He recognized the rhythm. It matched the pattern Mira had observed from the emitter angles before the scenario began. The bridge groaned on schedule, at the 4-minute mark, when the structural stress algorithm kicked in the way it always did. The previous teams had panicked here. 2 of them had tried to speed up. 1 had stopped entirely, which was arguably worse. Mira's team redistributed weight without breaking stride. Doro shifted the frame 2 centimeters to his left shoulder. Eula moved 1 step closer to the railing and braced. Mira herself moved to the center of the bridge, and for exactly 11 seconds, she stood completely still while everything around her was noise and smoke and the flat mechanical scream of suppression fire. She was calculating something. Groval did not know what. He did not like not knowing what. Then she moved, said 2 words to her team, and they crossed the final third of the bridge in 40 seconds. The simulation alarm did not blare. The flat, joyless tone did not come. Instead, the overhead display shifted from red to green, and a sound played that Groval had heard so rarely in this bay that it took him a full 2 seconds to identify it. The completion tone. The bay went very quiet. The other cadets who had already failed and were sitting along the side benches went very still. The Dengari twins looked at each other and, for the first time in 6 weeks, did not finish each other's sentences. There was nothing to say. Groval descended from the observation rail. He walked into the bay with the careful, measured pace of someone who was thinking very quickly while performing the face of someone who was thinking very calmly. Team 7 stood near the exit, the wounded unit frame set down correctly, everyone breathing hard but upright. Doro looked stunned in the satisfied way. Eula looked stunned in the disbelieving way. Mira looked like someone who had expected the water to be boiling and had simply waited for it. Groval stopped in front of them. All 6 of his eyes settled on Mira Voss. Acceptable, he said. This was, by Sulvari academic standards, a standing ovation. Then Mira looked up at him. That still, bark-colored gaze. And she said, in the tone of someone asking something they already knew the answer to but wanted confirmed out loud, Instructor Fun. The record says every cadet has failed this scenario for the last 3 cycles. Why did they fail? The bay was very quiet. Groval looked at her. A slow blink from 3 of his 6 eyes. Weight distribution under dynamic stress load. Cadets prioritized speed over structural tolerance. Right, Mira said. But the scenario brief tells you the weight of the unit. It tells you the bridge tolerance rating. It tells you the suppression pattern cycle time. All three numbers you need are in the brief. She paused. So they failed because they read the brief and then ignored it. That is a reductive interpretation. It is a correct one. Another pause. Somewhere on the side benches, Cadet Eula made a very small sound that was either a cough or the beginning of a laugh that she had killed out of self-preservation. The purpose of repeated failure in this scenario, Groval said, in the measured tone of someone building a very important wall, is to teach cadets that pressure degrades reasoning. That knowing information and using information under duress are entirely different skills. 31 cycles of data support this conclusion. Mira nodded slowly. 31 cycles of data, she repeated, from a scenario that never changed. Same bridge. Same emitter angles. Same weight rating. Same countdown. She tilted her head, precisely 1 degree. You did not design this scenario to test whether cadets could use information under pressure. You designed it to test whether cadets would stop trusting information under pressure. Those are opposite lessons, sir. The wall Groval had been building made a noise. And your 31 cycles of consistent failure, she continued, not unkindly, not cruelly, with the same calm that she used for everything, is not a record of how hard this scenario is. It is a record of how well it teaches cadets to doubt themselves before doubting the scenario. Groval stared at her for a long time. His lower arms were very still. His upper arms had gone the particular rigid that Sylvari arms went when a Sylvari was experiencing something they had not prepared for and were refusing to name out loud. That is a significant claim, Cadet Voss. It is a documented one, she said. I can write it up if that is useful. And there it was. Not loud. Not triumphant. Not even particularly dramatic. Just a human girl, 22 years old, standing in a smoke-cleared simulation bay on a space station above a gas giant, dismantling 31 years of professional certainty with the same energy she used to eat ration packs. Like it was simply what needed doing. Groval Fen stood very still for exactly 4 seconds. Then he said, dismissed, turned, and walked back toward the observation rail with the careful pace of someone who needed to sit down and reconsider several decades of their career. Behind him, one of the Dengari twins finally finished the other's sentence. She ended him, the first one said. Respectfully, the second one added. And from the side bench, Eula Pren let the laugh out all the way this time. And it filled the bay like a completion tone. Friends, if you are enjoying our videos and want to watch new and exciting sci-fi and HFY stories every day, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to turn on the bell icon so you never miss any of our latest uploads. Like the video and share it with your friends as well, so our community can continue to grow and bring you even more amazing content.